Captain Lee Daeho stood on his bridge, but this time his ship was very different. The Harmony's Edge no longer looked like a diplomatic vessel. Weapon systems had been installed along its hull. Extra armor plating covered vital areas. The crew had traded their diplomatic uniforms for military gear. Lee was no longer just a diplomat. Admiral Han had given him command of the first human combat fleet. 12 ships followed his lead, each one modified for war. The crews were ready, and they had trained for weeks using tactics that no alien race had ever seen. "Captain," Communications Officer Nam Yoonji called out, "We are receiving the signal from Admiral Han. Operation Thunderstorm is authorized to begin." Lee nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Captain Lee. Today we show the galaxy that humans protect the innocent no matter what the cost. Remember your training. Fight smart, not fair. Make them understand that they made a mistake when they thought we would stay quiet." The human fleet moved toward the edge of Vorth space, where intelligence reports said a large crystal fleet was gathering. At the same time, another human fleet under General Rowe was approaching Kalani territory. The plan was to hit both alien empires at the same time, making them think the other side had made an alliance with humanity. "Visual contact," reported Lieutenant Bei Jin-woo from the sensor station. "Vorth fleet detected. 12 large vessels, standard formation. They are not moving to intercept us." Lee looked at the tactical display. The Vorth ships were arranged in their typical pattern, with the largest vessel in the back and smaller ones spread out in a protective line. They were not hiding. They were not preparing for surprise attacks. They were just sitting there waiting for the humans to approach so they could have a proper battle. "Colonel Yoon," Lee called to the Special Operations Officer on his ship, "Are your teams ready?" Colonel Yoon Hyejian checked her equipment one more time. She and her soldiers were wearing modified spacesuits that could move silently through the vacuum. Their weapons were designed to work inside alien ships. Most importantly, they carried devices that would broadcast human war sounds into enemy vessels. "Ready, Captain. The boarding pods are prepared for launch." "Captain Zhang," Lee continued, addressing the fighter squadron leader, "Your pilots know the plan?" Captain Zhang Wu-jin smiled from the fighter bay. His squadron was equipped with modified attack craft that could ram enemy ships at high speed. Each fighter had an escape pod that would automatically eject the pilot before impact. It looked like a suicide attack, but the pilots would survive to fight again. "We are ready to show them something they have never seen." "Captain." Lee took a deep breath and opened communications on all frequencies. Every ship in both fleets would hear what he was about to say. "Attention, Vorth Empire and Kalani Collective. This is Captain Lee Daeho of the Human Federation. You have made a grave error in judgment. You assumed humanity would remain passive while you committed genocide against innocent civilians. You believed we were just another weak species that would hide from your war. Today we prove that humans protect those who cannot protect themselves, regardless of the consequences." The response from the Vorth fleet came quickly. The crystalline voice of their commander filled the communication channels. "Foolish mammals. You dare to threaten your betters? We have fought wars since before your species existed. Your primitive ships cannot harm our crystal armor. Prepare to be destroyed for your arrogance," Lee smiled. The Vorth commander was doing exactly what human intelligence had predicted. He was announcing his intentions and giving humanity time to prepare. In human warfare, that would be considered insane. "Begin Operation Thunderstorm," Lee ordered. The human attack began in ways that shocked every observer. Instead of moving into formation and announcing their battle plan, the human ships spread out and disappeared from sensors. Stealth technology developed during centuries of human conflict made them invisible to alien detection systems. The Vorth fleet began looking around in confusion. Their sensors showed human ships one moment, then nothing the next. They had never faced an enemy that could hide during battle. "Launch boarding pods," Colonel Yoon commanded. Small, fast vessels shot out from the human ships toward the Vorth fleet. The aliens' weapons tried to target them, but the pods were too small and moved too unpredictably. They struck the crystal ships and attached to their hulls like parasites. Inside the Vorth command ship, alarms began screaming. The crystal beings had no idea what was happening. Their ships had never been boarded during combat. They did not even have internal security protocols for such an event. Colonel Yoon and her teams cut through the alien hull and entered the ship. Immediately, they activated their psychological warfare devices. The sounds of human war cries, battle songs, and weapon fire filled the crystal corridors. To the Vorth, who had evolved in silence and calm, the noise was terrifying. The crystal beings tried to fight back, but they had never practiced combat inside their own ships. Their weapons were too large for the corridors. Their formations were designed for open space, not narrow hallways. The humans moved through the ship like ghosts, sabotaging systems and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. At the same time, Captain Zhang launched his fighter attack. The small human craft screamed toward the Vorth ships at maximum speed. The alien gunners tried to shoot them down, but the fighters moved in patterns that made no sense to crystal logic. At the last second before impact, escape pods ejected from each fighter. The unmanned craft struck the Vorth ships with tremendous force, penetrating shields that were designed to stop energy weapons, not high-speed solid objects. The Vorth fleet was in chaos. Their formations broke apart as ships tried to avoid ramming attacks they could not understand. Their communication systems were being jammed by human electronic warfare. Strange sounds were coming from inside their own vessels. "This is impossible," the Vorth commander transmitted on open channels. "These tactics have no honor. This is not how civilized races fight wars," Lee responded while his ship fired kinetic weapons at the alien fleet. The high-speed projectiles passed right through energy shields that had never been designed to stop solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. "Honor is a luxury for those who are not fighting for survival," Lee replied. "We fight to protect the innocent. We fight to win." Meanwhile, hundreds of light years away, General Rowe was implementing the same tactics against a Kalani fleet. The energy beings were just as confused as the Vorth. Their flowing, graceful combat style was disrupted by human fighters that attacked from impossible angles. Their energy ships, which could phase through solid matter, discovered that nuclear explosions worked just as well against energy beings as they did against physical targets. The most devastating part of the human attack was the deception. Using captured Vorth communication equipment, Commander Kim's intelligence team sent fake messages to the Kalani fleet. The energy beings received what appeared to be official Vorth communications, suggesting that the Crystal Empire had allied with humanity and was planning to betray the Kalani. At the same time, fake Kalani messages were sent to the Vorth fleet. These messages claimed that the Energy Collective had made a secret deal with humans to divide Vorth territory after the war. Both alien fleets began to receive these false messages just as the human attacks reached their peak. Confusion turned to suspicion, then to rage. Each side believed the other had betrayed their ancient conflict by bringing in outside help. The battle ended with both alien fleets retreating in different directions. For the first time in 300 years, Vorth and Kalani ships fled from the same battle, but they were not fleeing together. They were running away from each other, each side convinced that they had been betrayed. Back on his ship, Captain Lee watched the tactical display as the enemy fleets disappeared into hyperspace. Around him, his crew was cheering, but Lee felt no joy. This was just the beginning. "Casualties?" he asked. "Minimal, sir," reported Dr. Park from the medical bay. 3 injuries from the boarding teams, no deaths. All fighter pilots recovered successfully. "Enemy casualties?" "Unknown, Captain, but significant. Several Vorth ships were badly damaged. We detected emergency signals from multiple vessels." Lee opened communication channels to all human ships in the area. "Well done, everyone. But do not celebrate yet. This was just our opening move. Both alien fleets will regroup and come back with reinforcements. They will be angry, confused, and looking for revenge." "What are your orders, Captain?" Colonel Yoon asked. "We continue the plan. Hit-and-run attacks. Psychological warfare. Most importantly, we keep making each side think the other has betrayed them. By the time we are finished, they will be fighting each other more than they fight us." News of the human victory spread quickly through Federation space. The other member races, who had expected humanity to be quickly destroyed, watched in amazement as reports came in. 2 of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy had been defeated by a species they considered primitive. On Luna Base, Admiral Han received Captain Lee's after-action report with satisfaction. The first phase of Operation Thunderstorm had succeeded beyond their best hopes, but she knew the real test was still coming. Admiral Han Mi-young read Captain Lee's report 3 times before she finally put it down. Her office on Luna Base was quiet, looking out over the gray surface of Earth's moon. Ships were moving in the distance, but they looked so peaceful compared to what Lee had described. Han had been in charge of human space forces for 8 years. She had seen many conflicts, but nothing like this. Two alien empires were burning the galaxy, and they thought humans would just watch and do nothing. She pressed a button on her desk. "Call an emergency meeting. I want all senior commanders here in 4 hours." The meeting room filled quickly with the best military minds humanity had. General Ro Sung-ho arrived first. He was an expert in tactical warfare who had studied every human conflict from ancient times to the present. His gray hair and calm manner hit a sharp mind that could see patterns in chaos. Colonel Yoon Hye-jin came next. She ran special operations and had personally led more dangerous missions than anyone else in the room. Her small size fooled enemies who thought she would be weak, but her soldiers would follow her anywhere. Captain Jang Woo-jin entered with his flight suit still on. He had been training pilots when the call came. His squadron had the best combat record in human space, and he was always ready to fly into danger. Commander Kim Tae-min, who had returned with Captain Lee, brought all his intelligence files. His network of spies and informants across the galaxy had been watching the war closely. He knew things about the alien empires that even they did not know about themselves. Dr. Park Sora attended by video link from her ship. Her expertise on alien cultures would be crucial for what came next. She had spent years learning how different races thought and fought. Admiral Han looked around the room at these people who had served with her through many difficult times. "You have all read Captain Lee's report. The question now is simple. What do we do about it?" "The Federation Council has already voted for neutrality," General Ro pointed out. "We are supposed to stay out of this war." "The Federation Council is afraid," Colonel Yoon said with disgust. "The Gelen hide in their underwater cities. The Thrix pretend their hive minds cannot understand individual conflict. They all make excuses while people die." "But the aliens have better technology," Captain Jang said. "Their weapons are more powerful than ours. Their shields can stop anything we can throw at them." Admiral Han stood and walked to the large display screen. It showed a map of known space with red areas marking the war zones. The red was spreading like spilled blood across the galaxy. "Dr. Park," she said to the screen showing the xenobiologist, "what have you learned about how these races fight?" Park's image leaned forward. "Admiral, that is the interesting part. Both the Vorth and Kalani are very old civilizations. They have been spacefaring for thousands of years, but they developed during peaceful times on their homeworlds." "What does that mean?" Commander Kim asked. "It means they never learned to fight dirty," Park explained. "Look at human history. We have been at war with each other for our entire existence. We know every trick, every deception, every way to hurt an enemy. These aliens follow honor codes that limit what they can do." General Ro nodded slowly. "They fight like it is a game with rules." "Exactly," Park continued. "The Vorth consider it dishonorable to attack without warning. The Kalani refuse to target enemy leaders directly. They both announce their battle plans before they attack. They have made war into a ritual." Admiral Han turned to Commander Kim. "What do our intelligence networks tell us about their actual military capabilities?" Kim opened his files and put information on the main screen. "Their individual ships are more powerful than ours, but their tactics are predictable. They always fight the same way. They move in formation, target the closest enemy, and retreat when they take heavy losses. They have been doing this for 300 years. They never adapted," Colonel Yoon realized. "In human warfare, if something does not work, we try something else. These aliens just keep repeating the same mistakes." Captain Jang studied the ship formations on the screen. "Look at how they position their fleets. Their command ships are always in the safest spot in the back. Their most powerful weapons are on ships that move slowly. They protect their supply lines but never attack the enemies." Admiral Han felt something growing inside her chest. It was not fear. It was the feeling humans got when they found prey that thought it was safe. "What you are telling me is that these ancient, powerful aliens have never faced an enemy that fights to win, instead of fighting for honor." "That is correct, Admiral," Dr. Park confirmed. "In all their recorded history, they have never encountered a species that uses deception, surprise attacks, or psychological warfare. They literally do not understand these concepts." General Ro smiled for the first time in the meeting. "Admiral, I believe we have found our advantage. They have better weapons and shields, but we have something they do not." "What is that?" "We know how to be human." The room was quiet for a moment as everyone understood what that meant. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting itself. Every possible way to hurt, trick, or defeat an enemy had been tried by humans at some point. War was not about honor for humans. It was about survival. Admiral Han walked back to her desk and pressed another button. I want every shipyard in human space to begin immediate retrofitting. Remove exploration equipment. Install weapons. I want every human vessel ready for combat within 30 days. What about the Federation Council? Commander Kim asked. The Federation Council voted for neutrality. They did not vote to stop us from defending ourselves. When the Vorth and Kalani killed those human aid workers, they made it our business. Colonel Yoon stood up. What are your orders, Admiral? Colonel, I want you to select your best special operations teams. Train them for ship-to-ship boarding actions. These aliens have never faced enemies who board their vessels during combat. Captain Jang, she continued, begin training your pilots in kamikaze tactics. But I want escape pod systems installed in every fighter. We will use suicide runs without the suicide. General Rowe, I need you to develop battle plans that these aliens cannot predict. Use every dirty trick humans have ever learned. I want them to face chaos they cannot understand. Commander Kim, I want intelligence operations on both alien fleets. Find their weaknesses. Learn their schedules. Most importantly, find ways to make them fight each other instead of us. She turned to Dr. Park on the screen. Doctor, I need you to study their psychology. How do we make them afraid? How do we break their morale? How do we turn their honor codes against them? Engineer Oh Kyung-soo, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. Admiral, what about weapons? They have shields that can stop our current armaments. Han smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Engineer? Oh, I want you to look at weapons that these aliens have never seen. They expect energy beams and explosive missiles. What if we give them something completely different? What do you mean? Kinetic weapons. Projectiles fired at high speed. Chemical explosives. Biological agents. Nuclear weapons. Things that work by different principles than what they are used to defending against. The engineer's eyes grew wide. Admiral, those are all considered primitive weapons by galactic standards. Primitive, yes, but effective against enemies who have never faced them. As the meeting continued, plans began to form. Humanity would not fight like other Federation species. They would not follow the rules that had kept this war going for centuries. They would fight like humans had always fought, with cunning, with adaptation, and with the understanding that the only rule in war was to win. Over the next 30 days, human space became a hive of activity. Merchant ships were converted to warships. Exploration vessels received weapon systems. Fighter craft were built by the thousands. Most importantly, human military doctrine was adapted for space warfare. The training was intense. Pilots learned to ram enemy ships and escape at the last second. Marines practiced boarding alien vessels in zero gravity. Intelligence officers studied how to hack alien communication systems. When Admiral Han received word that Captain Lee was returning from another diplomatic mission, she knew it was time to act. The aliens had ignored every attempt at peace. They had killed human civilians. They had told humanity to stay away from their war. Han stood in her office one more time, looking at the peaceful scene outside. Soon that peace would end, but when it did, the Vorth Empire and the Kalani Collective would learn something that no other species in the galaxy had ever taught them. They would learn what happened when they made humans angry. Send word to all human fleets, she ordered her aide. Operation Thunderstorm begins in 72 hours. It is time to show the galaxy what humans do when someone thinks we will not fight back. The aide hurried away to send the message. Admiral Han remained at her window watching the stars. Somewhere out there, two alien empires thought they had successfully intimidated another weak species. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the stars through the large window. His vessel, the Harmony's Edge, was moving slowly through space toward the meeting point. Lee had been a diplomat for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like what was happening in the galaxy now. Two ancient alien races were destroying everything. The Vorth Empire looked like walking crystals, tall and sharp, with voices that sounded like breaking glass. The Kalani Collective were beings made of pure energy, floating lights that could take any shape they wanted. Both races had been fighting each other for 300 years. Dr. Park Sora walked up to Lee, holding a data pad in her hands. She was the ship's expert on alien cultures and had studied both races for many years. Her face looked worried. Captain, the reports from the border worlds are getting worse, she said quietly. The Vorth destroyed another colony yesterday. The Kalani responded by burning an entire moon. Millions are dead. Lee nodded slowly. He had read the reports too. Whole solar systems were becoming empty wastelands. Planets that once held billions of people were now just rocks floating in space. The war was spreading like a disease. "What does the Federation Council say?" Lee asked. "They want us to stay away from the conflict. The other member races are too scared to get involved. The Gelen say their people are not warriors. The Thrix claim their insect society cannot understand the war. Everyone is making excuses." Lee understood why. The Vorth and Kalani were both much older than humanity. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Their technology was far beyond anything most other races could imagine. Their weapons could crack planets in half. Their shields could stop any attack the Federation had ever seen. Commander Kim Taemin entered the bridge. He was in charge of military intelligence and always looked serious. His uniform was perfectly clean, and his eyes missed nothing. "Captain, we have received messages from both sides," Kim said, handing over 2 data crystals. "They want to meet with us separately." Lee took the crystals and put them into the ship's computer. The first message showed a tall Vorth commander. The creature looked like a living mountain of blue crystal, with light glowing from inside its body. When it spoke, its voice made the speakers vibrate. "Humans," the Vorth said with obvious disgust. "You are young and weak, but you have ships. Stay away from our ancient war. This conflict is beyond your small minds. You cannot understand the honor that drives us to destroy our eternal enemies." The second message was from a Kalani leader. It appeared as a ball of golden light that kept changing shape. Sometimes it looked almost human, then it would become something else entirely. Its voice sounded like singing, but there was coldness in it. "Little flesh creatures," the Kalani sang, "your brief lives cannot grasp the importance of our struggle. We have fought the crystal devils since before your son was born. Do not interfere in matters that your primitive brains cannot process." Lee turned off the messages and looked at his crew. Everyone on the bridge had heard the same thing. Both sides were telling humans to stay away. Both sides thought humans were too weak and stupid to matter. "They both think we are nothing, Doctor," Park said with anger in her voice. "Just another weak species that will hide when the big powers fight." "Maybe they are right," Kim said quietly. "Our weapons are not as powerful as theirs. Our ships are smaller. Our population is tiny compared to theirs." Lee walked to the window again. In the distance, he could see the glow of burning worlds. Refugee ships were moving slowly away from the war zone, carrying survivors to safety. Many of those refugees were humans who had been living on the border colonies. "Set course for the Kepler system," Lee ordered. "There are reports of fighting there. I want to see this war with my own eyes." The crew prepared the ship for the journey. It would take 3 days to reach Kepler. During that time, Lee spent hours reading reports and watching recordings of the battles. The Vorth fought with huge ships that fired beams of pure crystal. Their weapons could turn enemy vessels into glass statues that shattered in space. The Kalani used ships made of energy that could pass through solid matter and then become real again to attack from inside enemy defenses. Both sides had been fighting the same way for centuries. They met in large fleets, fired their weapons until one side had fewer ships, then retreated to build more vessels. It was a pattern that repeated over and over. Neither side tried anything new. Neither side seemed to learn from their mistakes. On the second day of the journey, Dr. Park brought Lee more disturbing news. "Captain, I have been studying their military tactics. Both races fight with honor codes that limit what they can do. The Vorth will not attack during certain crystal moon phases. The Kalani refuse to fight when their energy levels are below specific amounts. They have rules for everything." "Rules in war?" Lee asked. "Yes. They consider many tactics to be dishonorable. No surprise attacks, no targeting of command ships first, no fighting in asteroid fields, no retreating unless officially ordered. The list goes on and on." Lee found this strange. In human history, war had few rules. Humans fought to win, not to be honorable. They used whatever worked, even if it was dirty or unfair. When the Harmony's edge reached the Kepler system, Lee saw the war up close for the first time. Two massive fleets were facing each other across empty space. Vorth crystal ships gleamed like jewels in the starlight. Kalani energy vessels looked like captured lightning, crackling and shifting constantly. Between the two fleets were the remains of a colony ship. It had been carrying refugees away from the fighting. Now it was just twisted metal and frozen bodies floating in the void. Lee could see through his ship's sensors that humans had been among the dead. Those were aid workers, Dr. Park said softly, reading the identification signals from the wreckage. They were helping evacuate civilians from the war zone. Lee watched as the two fleets began another formal battle. They moved slowly into position, announced their intentions on open channels, and then began firing. It was like watching a deadly dance that both sides had performed thousands of times before. But Lee was not watching the battle anymore. He was looking at the dead refugees, including the humans who had died trying to help others. His hands were shaking with anger. "Take us back to Federation space," he ordered. "I need to send a message to Earth." The journey home took 5 days. During that time, Lee wrote his report. He described the arrogance of both alien races. He explained how they thought humans were too weak to matter. He detailed the unnecessary deaths and the spreading destruction, but most importantly, he included his recommendation. The Vorth Empire and the Kalani Collective have made a serious mistake. They think humans will hide like the other Federation races. They believe we are just another weak species that will do nothing while innocents die. Admiral Han, they are about to learn that they are very wrong about humanity. When the message reached Earth, it started a chain of events that would change the galaxy forever. The Vorth Emperor was furious. In his crystal palace on the homeworld, he raged at his military commanders with a voice that shattered every glass object in the room. The crystal being stood 3 meters tall, his body glowing with angry red light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "How did primitive mammals defeat our battle fleet?" the Emperor demanded. "You told me these humans were weak. You said they would hide like the other Federation cowards." General Tok'ra, the Vorth military leader, tried to explain what had happened. His crystal body was dim with shame. "Your Majesty, they fought without honor. They used tactics we have never seen. They boarded our ships during battle and made terrible sounds inside our vessels. Their fighters crashed into us on purpose. And worse," added Admiral Secto, "we have intercepted communications suggesting the energy demons have allied with these humans. The Kalani may be planning to attack our homeworld while we are distracted." The Emperor's glow turned from red to violent purple. "Then we will destroy both enemies at once. Gather the Grand Fleet, every ship we have. I want 10,000 vessels ready for battle. We will crush these humans completely, then burn every Kalani world to ash." Across the galaxy, a similar scene was playing out in the Kalani Collective's energy realm. The Kalani High Council floated in space above their energy star, their forms crackling with electricity born from rage. "The crystal monsters have betrayed us," sang the first voice, a being of pure lightning that spoke in musical tones. "They have made alliance with the flesh creatures to destroy our people. This cannot be allowed." "The humans fight strangely," harmonized the second voice. "They appear and disappear like ghosts. Their weapons pass through our energy shields. They explode nuclear fire inside our formations. Then we will adapt," the first voice decided. "Gather the great swarm, every energy ship in our territory. We will destroy the Crystal Empire and their human allies together. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who oppose us." Neither alien empire realized they had been tricked. Both believed the other had allied with humanity. Both were preparing for total war against enemies who were actually fighting each other as much as they were fighting humans. On Earth, Admiral Han read the intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. Commander Kim's spy networks had confirmed that both alien empires were mobilizing their entire military forces. Soon, humanity would face fleets larger than anything ever seen in galactic history. "Admiral," General Rose said during their strategy meeting, "our scouts report massive fleet movements. The Vorth are gathering 10,000 ships. The Kalani have at least 8,000 energy vessels moving toward battle positions. Combined, they outnumber us 50 to 1. "Good," Admiral Han replied, surprising everyone in the room. "Good?" Colonel Yoon asked. "Admiral, how is that good news?" "Because large fleets are harder to hide, harder to coordinate, and easier to confuse," Han explained. When you have 10,000 ships trying to work together, communication becomes a nightmare. Command and control breaks down. Most importantly, they make bigger targets for our psychological warfare. She turned to Dr. Nam Yunji, the weapons researcher who had been working on special projects. Doctor, is Project Fenrir ready? Dr. Nam looked uncomfortable. Admiral, the weapon works, but the power is beyond anything we have ever created. If we use it, every species in the galaxy will know that humans possess planet-killing technology. That is exactly what I want them to know. But not yet. First, we need to reduce the numbers we are facing. Master Sergeant Cho Dong-hyun entered the room, his marine armor showing fresh battle damage. He had just returned from another boarding operation against a Kalani scout ship. His team had captured the vessel and learned valuable information about energy being psychology. Report? Sergeant Admiral Han ordered. Admiral, the energy beings are more afraid of solid matter than we realized. When we fired projectile weapons inside their ship, they panicked completely. They cannot understand how solid objects can exist in the same space as their energy forms. Captain Song Minho, the intelligence operative, added his own discoveries. Admiral, I have been analyzing communication intercepts from both fleets. They are not coordinating with each other at all. In fact, they are actively planning to attack each other as soon as they finish with us. Perfect, Han smiled. Then we give them exactly what they want. Over the next week, human fleets began a fighting withdrawal toward the Nexus system, a region of space where 3 major trade routes met. It was the perfect place for a large battle, with plenty of asteroid fields for cover and multiple escape routes. But the humans were not really retreating. They were leading both alien fleets to the same location, while making each side think they were chasing the human-alien alliance. Captain Lee's fleet had grown to include 200 ships, a mixture of converted civilian vessels and purpose-built warships. They moved through space using hit-and-run tactics that drove their pursuers crazy with frustration. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Yoon reported, Vorth Advance Fleet is pursuing us at maximum speed. They are broadcasting demands for us to stop running and fight with honor. Let them catch up, Lee ordered. But only the advanced ships. We want to separate their forces. When the first Vorth ships entered weapons range, the humans implemented a tactic they called Phantom Fleet. Using advanced holographic projectors, they created fake ships that looked exactly like real ones. The Vorth fleet found itself shooting at targets that did not exist, while the real human ships attacked from unexpected angles. The crystal beings had never faced an enemy that used deception on such a scale. Their honor codes demanded that battles be fought between real opponents, not illusions. The concept of fake targets was so alien to their thinking that some Vorth commanders simply shut down rather than deal with the impossibility. Colonel Yoon's boarding teams had been reinforced with volunteers from every human military unit. They now used a tactic called Ghost Marines, where teams would board alien ships, cause maximum damage and panic, then escape before the enemy could respond. The psychological effect was devastating. The crystal creatures are starting to fear enclosed spaces, Yoon reported after her latest mission. Some of their ships are flying with all airlocks open because they are afraid we might be hiding inside. It is destroying their atmosphere systems and making their crews sick. Captain Zhang had developed new fighter tactics based on ancient human naval warfare. His pilots would approach in formation, then scatter at the last second, making the enemy waste ammunition on empty space. Then they would reform behind the alien ships and attack from the rear. The Vorth gunners are becoming paranoid, Zhang reported. They fire at anything that moves, including their own sensor drones and supply ships. We are destroying their fleet coordination without even trying. The breakthrough came when Dr. Park discovered something crucial about both alien races. Captain, I have been studying their psychology during combat. Both species are collective thinkers. The Vorth share thoughts through crystal resonance. The Kalani communicate through energy harmonics. They literally cannot understand individual initiative. What does that mean for us? It means they cannot adapt to chaos the way humans can. When their plans break down, they do not improvise. They just keep following their original orders even when those orders no longer make sense. This discovery led to the most effective human tactic yet, the Chaos Doctrine. Human ships would attack alien formations in patterns that made no logical sense. They would retreat when winning, advance when outnumbered, and change tactics every few minutes. The rigid alien command structures could not cope with such unpredictability. The final phase of the human strategy began when both massive alien fleets converged on the Nexus system. 10,000 Vorth crystal ships approached from one direction. 8,000 Kalani energy vessels came from another. Between them, 200 human ships seemed hopelessly outnumbered, but Admiral Han had one more surprise prepared. "All units, this is Admiral Han," she broadcast on secure channels. "Operation Chaos Storm begins now. Remember, we are not trying to destroy their fleets. We are trying to make them destroy each other." Human ships throughout the system activated the most sophisticated deception in military history. Using communication systems captured from both alien fleets, they began broadcasting fake orders to both sides. Vorth ships received messages that appeared to come from their own command, ordering them to attack Kalani vessels that were supposedly trying to escape with human prisoners. Kalani ships got orders to destroy Vorth formations that were allegedly planning surprise attacks on energy world colonies. At the same time, human ships used holographic projectors to disguise themselves as alien vessels. Vorth ships saw what looked like Kalani attackers, but were actually human vessels in disguise. Kalani ships saw fake Vorth raiders that fired real weapons. The confusion grew when both alien fleets began receiving human radio broadcasts that sounded like their supposed allies betraying them. Fake human voices discussed plans to divide alien territory after the war. Both sides heard humans talking about which alien worlds would make the best slave colonies. Within hours, the largest space battle in galactic history began. 3 months after the Battle of Nexus, the galaxy was burning worse than ever before. The Vorth Empire and Kalani Collective had stopped fighting humans almost entirely. Instead, they were destroying each other with a hatred that made their previous 300-year war look like a friendly disagreement. Entire star systems were being wiped out. The Vorth had developed new crystal weapons that could turn planets into glass. The Kalani had created energy storms that boiled away atmospheres. Billions of innocent beings on neutral worlds were dying as the war spread beyond all control. On Luna Base, Admiral Han Mi-young stood in her command center watching the tactical displays. Red markers showed burning worlds. Yellow markers indicated refugee movements. The colors were spreading across the galaxy like a disease. "Admiral," General Rowe reported, "both alien empires are requesting meetings. They want to discuss terms. What kind of terms? Each side wants us to help them destroy the other. The Vorth are offering us half of Kalani territory if we assist in their complete extermination. The Kalani promise us crystal world colonies if we help them burn every Vorth planet to ash." Admiral Han turned away from the displays. Through her office window, she could see Earth floating in the distance, blue and peaceful. Soon that peace might end forever if she made the wrong choice. "What about the neutral worlds caught in the middle?" Commander Kim answered from his intelligence station. "Casualty reports are coming in constantly. The Altarian colonies have been evacuated. The Deneb trade stations are gone completely. At current rates, this war will destroy a quarter of the galaxy within 2 years." Dr. Nam Yunji approached the Admiral with a data pad. Her weapons research team had been working around the clock on Project Fenrir. "Admiral, the weapon is ready for testing. We can demonstrate its power on the lifeless moon in the Kepler system. Power level? Complete planetary destruction. Not just surface damage, Admiral. Total obliteration. The target will cease to exist." Admiral Han looked at the data pad, then at the tactical displays showing the spreading destruction. Sometimes, to create peace, someone had to be strong enough to enforce it. "Schedule the test for tomorrow. Make sure both alien empires are watching." The next day, fleets from across the galaxy gathered at a safe distance from Kepler 7, a dead moon that had been chosen as the test target. Vorth crystal ships floated in formation, their commanders curious about what the primitive humans thought they could accomplish. Kalani energy vessels crackled with anticipation, expecting to see human technology fail spectacularly. Other Federation species had also sent observers. The Gellan, the Thrix, and dozens of other races wanted to see what humanity had been building in secret. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. Around her, the most advanced human weapons ever created were being prepared for their first and hopefully last demonstration. "All observer fleets, this is Admiral Han Mi-young of Human Space Command," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You are about to witness the power that humanity has chosen not to use in this conflict. We could have deployed this weapon at any time during the past months. We chose restraint instead." The Vorth Fleet Commander responded first. "Humans cannot possibly possess weapons superior to crystal technology. Your demonstration will only prove your weakness." The Kalani Fleet Leader's musical voice followed. Energy beings have mastered forces that flesh creatures cannot comprehend. You waste our time with primitive displays? Perhaps, Admiral Han replied calmly. Let us see. She nodded to Dr. Nam, who activated Project Fenrir from the weapons control station. A single projectile, no larger than a human fist, shot out from the Indomitable toward the target moon. For a moment, nothing happened. The projectile was too small for most sensors to track. The alien observers began to mock what they saw as a failed demonstration. Then Kepler-7 simply stopped existing. There was no explosion, no burst of light, no expanding cloud of debris. One moment there was a moon, and the next moment there was only empty space. The gravitational sensors confirmed what the visual displays showed. The target had been completely erased from reality. The alien fleets fell silent. In all their thousands of years of warfare, neither the Vorth nor the Kalani had ever seen anything like what they had just witnessed. Their most powerful weapons could destroy planets, but this had unmade matter itself. This, Admiral Han announced, is human restraint. We could have used this weapon against your homeworlds. We could have ended your war by eliminating both of your species entirely. We chose not to because humans prefer that our enemies surrender voluntarily. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But our restraint has limits. The destruction you are causing to innocent worlds ends now. Both of your empires will agree to immediate ceasefire and peace negotiations, or you will learn what happens when humans stop being patient. The response from the Vorth Emperor came within hours. His crystal form appeared on communication screens across the galaxy, no longer glowing with arrogance but dim with fear. The Vorth Empire requests immediate ceasefire negotiations with all parties. We acknowledge that continued warfare serves no purpose and causes unnecessary suffering to innocent populations. The Kalani Collective's reply followed soon after. The first voice no longer sang with confidence, but with the harmony of beings who had glimpsed their own mortality. The Kalani Collective agrees to participate in peace discussions. We recognize that the current conflict has exceeded acceptable parameters and must be resolved through diplomatic means. Within a week, representatives from both alien empires arrived at the neutral station that had been established for negotiations, but they were not coming to discuss terms with each other. They were coming to surrender to humanity. Ambassador Lim Jae-sung had been chosen to lead the human diplomatic team. He was known throughout Federation space as someone who could find peaceful solutions to impossible problems. But even he was surprised by what the aliens were offering. The Vorth Empire, announced General Tok'ra, formally surrenders all military assets to human authority. We request that humans govern our worlds and prevent us from making war ever again. The Kalani representative, a being calling itself the Voice of Surrender, made an almost identical offer. The Kalani Collective submits to human oversight of all energy world colonies. We beg humans to impose peace upon us before we destroy ourselves. Ambassador Lim looked at the two delegations with amazement. You are both offering us your entire civilizations? We have seen human power, General Tok'ra replied. We understand now that resistance is impossible. But more than that, we have seen human mercy. You could have destroyed us completely. But instead, you stopped our war before it consumed the galaxy. We trust humans to rule us wisely. This was not what humanity had expected. Admiral Han, participating by video link, spoke carefully. We do not want to rule your civilizations. We want you to stop killing each other and stop destroying innocent worlds. But how can we trust each other after what has happened? The Voice of Surrender asked. We have been enemies for so long that we do not know how to make peace. We need someone stronger than both of us to enforce that peace. Ambassador Lim spent 3 days in discussions with both sides. Slowly, a different kind of solution began to emerge. Humanity would not rule the alien empires, but they would act as peacekeepers and arbitrators. Human fleets would patrol the border zones. Human diplomats would mediate disputes. Most importantly, human weapons would guarantee that the war would never start again. The Treaty of Terra was signed 6 months later in a ceremony that was broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The Vorth Empire and Kalani Collective formally ended their 300-year war. Both sides agreed to pay massive reparations to the neutral worlds they had damaged. Most importantly, both empires accepted permanent, human military bases in their territory. To prevent future conflicts, Vice Admiral Ko Young-suk was placed in command of the new Human Peacekeeping Corps. Her Fleets began patrolling former war zones, protecting refugee convoys and ensuring that reconstruction aid reached the worlds that needed it. Dr. Shin Hyun-woo led teams of human engineers who helped rebuild the devastated planets. They worked alongside both Vorth and Kalani specialists, teaching the former enemies how to cooperate instead of compete. Captain Lee, now promoted to admiral, established the Human Diplomatic Service. His job was to prevent future wars by mediating disputes before they could escalate. Other Federation species, amazed by what humanity had accomplished, began requesting human arbitrators for their own conflicts. 1 year after the Battle of Nexus, Admiral Han stood in her office one final time before retiring. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of species working together to rebuild the galaxy. Fourth crystal vessels carried Kalani energy generators to neutral worlds. Human ships escorted refugee convoys back to their rebuilt homes. Captain Song Min-ho, now head of Galactic Intelligence, brought her the final report. Admiral, the last of the war criminals have been captured. Both alien empires have completed their disarmament schedules. There has not been a single act of warfare between any Federation species in 8 months. And the other species? They have all requested human military advisors and peacekeeping forces. The Gelen want us to establish bases,